It's only two things that's gonna follow you to the day you die. And she said that's your shadow and your reputation.
Where did you get this idea from?
Okay, so the ideal stemmed. Right now, I have a 5-year-old daughter.
Okay.
So it actually stemmed while I was pregnant with her. So I'll say about 5 years ago. And I've been an entrepreneur. So before the financial literacy, I am designing. So I'm also a fashion designer. So I design clothes. So I have always had the entrepreneur mindset. But I'm also a person who research. So I research. I love my knowledge. I love to learn. So what it stemmed from was, okay, now I'm responsible for life. So I had to take up on that role and actually show how much I am, like the gratitude of being responsible of the blessing of life and the blessing of giving life. So everything stemmed from me trying to plan a future for my child. So Boomy Beat Enterprise LLC, that's actually her brand. And on the book is actually her. So this is actually her company. And what I did was I did my research, and upon researching, I found out that statistically speaking, give or take, but it takes about 5 years to get a company up and running, and to be like leveled, and you've learned things, you learned your ups, your downs, you kind of figure out the analytics of the company to have it smoothly run in 5 years. And what I am is I'm a literal person, so literally 5 years is 5 years. So what I thought, okay, I'm having a child. And if I actually work on her book for 5 years, no matter what, 5 years is going to be 5 years, then I'm prepping her to have a better chance of financial freedom. So what I did was I wrote down many different books in a little journal. So I started with just my notebook. I wrote it down in a journal. And it took me about a year until it actually came into fruition of having it actually graphic, print, and everything, like all the kinks worked out. But by the age of 2, she had her own LLC, because I knew I had 5 years to have her up and running, to work on her stuff. So we're at 2022. I launched the book in 2021. She had her LLC, I want to say, in 2020. But again, it took me that year to go ahead and get it printed. But all that process was the process of me building something for her, because like I said, statistically speaking, it's going to take those 5 years. And within those 5 years, over time, it's something you have to learn within each level of development. So what sparked me to create this is just understanding statistics, understanding reality, being literal about the knowledge that I learned. And my daughter's 5 now, so she's very familiar with her book. I take her to many financial literacy events. She go out, she speak for herself about her book. She promote her book. But it all started with creating generational wealth and actually setting her up for greatness, and not waiting until she's 18 to say, hey, you're grown now, so go make something for yourself. Why would I wait 18 years to tell you that,
So in 5 years, I'll interview her.
Correct.
I'll be able to know
Correct.
where she got it from.
Correct.
My question to you is, where'd you get it from?
I would say it definitely stemmed from the tree, the hierarchy. It didn't start with me. My grandparents are my grandmother had her own beauty shop. My grandfather, he had real estate. I've seen him build his own house with his hand, the back house with his hand. So I've seen the people, my elders above me, prove that, doing stuff that's within them by using your natural God-given talent, it's something that can be pushed out. It doesn't have to stay within. So I've seen it. So it was pretty normal for me to see people like do more than one thing, do what they're capable of, and actually like execute it to the best of their ability. So
The potential.
Correct. So it stemmed from my elders, definitely my elders, my ancestors. The wisdom has definitely been passed down, and I just continue to pass it. So,
What is one of those sayings, or a couple, if you think a couple right offhand, that stay with you while you're going through this, for your daughter, through your daughter?
Well, my grandmother, she tell us this. She used to tell us every Sunday. My grandmother and my grandfather would pick us up for church. Me, my brother, and my sister, and we were the choir. So I'd be like, "Granny, I'm sick." She going, "Well, here go peppermint." Like it don't matter. We the choir. We lived in a small church. We had like a small church family. So my grandmother, she would tell us though every Sunday. She said, and my grandmother, she was like, her name was Joyce, and that's why I get my middle name from, Joy. So my grandmother, she was very big about, like, she would go to hair shows. She traveled everywhere, but it seems so normal. It seems so normal to us. And she'll tell us it's only two things that's going to follow you to the day you die. And she said that's your shadow and your reputation. So my grandmother told us that, and that's been sticking with me for my entire life because she never let up about saying that. And she would tell us every Sunday, it's only two things that'll follow you to the day you die, and that's your shadow and your reputation. So she was big about making sure we had good morale. We was very good to people. What you give out is what you give back. So my grandmother, my grandparents, they've instilled great morals within me from what they would deliver to share to, the seeds that they provided. And I definitely don't take any of that for granted. So I appreciate everything.
So the book has been completed. How long has it been finished?
I think it's been done. November will make a year.
Okay. So as you go out into the marketplace, and you as an entrepreneur and already being out, you already know that what you've created is not common.
Right.
Talk to me about the responses that you're getting once you've gone out with your book.
I'll be honest, and I was just speaking of this. It's like, even when I sent this to my illustrator, because I had to send the template of exactly how I want it, because most people like an ABC book, an alphabet, they want to put like elephants and stuff. So the first response I got was like, wow, I've done so many books and I've never seen someone willing to take this route, and I'm actually glad. This is someone random, like just someone I met online, and I just sent them some. They had the tools to provide, so I sent them what I wanted, and they were proud that I was even doing it. So the responses, I'll be honest, it's kind of like, I wouldn't say overwhelming, but it's like kind of like overjoyous to really see how much support I have from people just from hearing the mission, the goal of what I was chosen to provide. But it wasn't for me to provide, it was for me to share and for us all to take action. So it's just like, it really thrills me to actually get the responses of like people really positive about seeing the lack thereof when it comes to the youth learning finance. And then the adults also realizing like, okay, I can learn a thing or two about finance. So the responses have been really, really positive. I went to Belize, and I was able to read my book to the vice president of Liberia. And when I say she had me in contact with her secretary because she wanted her books. This is South Africa. So she wanted this book over there. So she put me in contact with her secretary. So it's like, this like reading to like your Michelle Obama. And she's like, well, I want this book to be worldwide. So I'm reading to the vice president of Liberia. I read to the mayor of Belmopan in Belize. And the support I've gotten internationally, within the city, outside the city, in the States, it's just like, wow. Like, it's like this was put on my heart to create, and it's like, it's more massive than I even thought, because the support and the amount of people willing to spread the vision, the goal, and really like push the next generation to understand, certain things should be taught, or you should understand certain things at an early age so you don't struggle. It's up to us to close that gap of what they don't teach us. They don't teach us for a reason. So why would it be up to them to teach us? Because there's a reason why they don't. So, it's just the amount of feedback is honestly like, okay, Nikayla, you got some responsibility here. and it's positive though. It's positive, and it's like, I don't stop here. This is not the end. It's not going to just stop at this book. I've been working on many more projects to actually get different people to understand, if you don't read, videos, songs, games. So it's more things I do to actually spread it. And then I reach out to the people who I feel can help me. And many people have mentored me on ways of how to do it. Teachers, how to get into school systems, how to get into banks. So it's more vast than I first imagined of me just, showing my little one of like, hey, this is how you fend for yourself by using yourself, and I'm going to help you do it. I'm not just going to make you do it 18 years later and just wait for you to waste 18 years of life not knowing. So.
Are you a parent, student, or teacher? Well, luckily for you, we have a creative and far more advanced way of teaching you and your family the ABCs of financial literacy. Thanks to this creation, every kid is now capable of learning finance terminology as early as 6 months of age. How amazing is that? Knowing your child will develop a sense of financial responsibility so early on. Mom and Dad, you know what this means. That's right, more money in your pocket. The children will now acquire knowledge to develop their own funds, and you will build family wealth. By using our financial literacy ABC coloring books and flashcards, you will create an easier future because we must grow up one day. Carry your knowledge and learn on the go by downloading the Amazon Kindle book and fun interactive financial literacy ABC learning app in the App Store now. Creation of Boomi B Enterprise LLC.
Although my daughter is 5, I don't force her to understand something a 40-year-old might understand.
Sure.
Because 40 years is 40 years of understanding. She still have only 5 years of understanding. So over time, she will be granted that understanding. So I'm not in a rush to just try to immediately know everything and every reason, because what I know in time is what I am supposed to know. And then in time, as time go on, once I become 30, 35, 40, I will know more, but I have to also just kind of take the paths of life to get there and not be anxious to get there. I'm not anxious to get to the end. I'm okay with learning life as it goes. And I do take on the pride in knowing that this is a great responsibility, because it's in me, and as I go over time, I let it mature within me. And then I also develop different relationships to where it can flourish in the right time rather than trying to flourish in a time where I'm not ready. So I do know it's a grand responsibility. I might not know as much as I think I may know of how grand it is, but I do know that I'm willing to do whatever I'm here to do, what my purpose is.
Your daughter's favorite character in the book and your favorite character in the book.
What she loves, she talks about her. That's her character. So anytime she opens the book, she'll open and she'll say, "This is me," and then we have a bunny. We actually have a pet bunny. So the bunny is actually our pet bunny. We have a bunny named Atlas. And then the bumblebee is because we call her Boomi B. And her name is Boomi, which means Mother Earth. So she loves her character. I love them all, honestly. Because the mission is to get the kids to interact. I try to reach the kids on their level so they can interact. And then I make it fun. I have a song in there and stuff rhymes and different little graphics of like the bee holding something, the bunny holding. And then, so I make it fun for the kids. I'm more than proud that when I created this to see like it in actuality of like, okay, wow, I envisioned it to be like this, and it's actually like this.
So you walked yourself into a hole. You have to sing some of the song, right?
Okay, that's fine. I definitely will.
Could you?
So yes, of course.
Okay.
So the song, it goes, "Now I know my ABCs," and then I have the kids repeat, "Now I know my ABCs of financial literacy, of financial literacy. Learning these terms is such a delight. Learning these terms is such a delight. I will be amazing and bright. I will be amazing and bright." And that's the song that I have my kids sing with me.
So tell me about you're teaching the children, and you touched on it a while ago, but I want to circle back on it. Also, teaching the parents.
Correct.
Talk to me about that.
So, and when I made the book, I taught myself, which is why I know the parents are being taught as well. A lot of times when I go to events, and I'm actually out there, I'll have flashcards for the kids. I always come to the kids, but the adults, of course, are always going to be there in a section. But I always come to the kids because I want to see how can I engage in your realm. So I come to the kids and I have like just different flashcards. Like, hey, pick a card and you'll get something for free. Whether it's like a face mask, a notepad, a wealth generator shirt, I'll give you something for free. All you got to do is participate because in the end, you're going to gain something. So I actually have the kids do like, when I do quid pro quo, and I like to teach the kids that because it's not a common term, but quid pro quo means something for something. So I like to teach them that. And once they get something, once they see like the meaning, they'll be like, I want to try another one. I want to try another one. Like, okay, you did teach me something, but now I want to try another one. So the parents are all interact. I learned learning terms from A to Z. I literally have to find terms from A, B, C, D, all the way to Z. So I even learned, because I'm like, what term starts with the X? Like, what can I get with the X? And I found xenocurrency. And, and I didn't know, and that's when you transfer money from, like if I transfer $1 to a yen, so transferring currency is xenocurrency. So I learned myself, and it's a lot to learn. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And we don't know everything. It's not meant for us to know everything, but it's just a lot of stuff out there that, we don't know. So the parents definitely learn from it because it's just a lot of stuff a lot of people just aren't familiar with. And it's nothing against, people who aren't familiar with. But like I said, I don't know how to speak Japanese and, it's a lot of stuff that I don't know. So it's just introducing certain things of people like, to people. What you don't know what you don't know. So the parents definitely learn as well.
And of course, there's nobody who's giving you any negative flack about the book, right?
I've had one person, I wouldn't say negative, but they kind of came, they kind of gave me like they said something in the sense of, I would have worded it this way. Like, I would have said it differently. And I'm like, well, it's my book, like you can make a book and say it differently if you want. I have nothing against that. But it was just kind of like, I guess they were more so critiquing it to like perfection, which it was not meant for perfection. It's actually just meant to share knowledge in a way that I feel the kids can receive it, which I didn't say, I'm not opposed to critics or critique or anything of that nature. But I had one guy who actually, he was like flipping the page. He actually bought the book though, but he was critiquing it at the same time. He's like, well, why didn't you say, I don't know, I forgot what it was, but it was a certain term. He's like, why didn't you say this term instead of this? And I was just like, well, I wrote the book. I mean, that's the term that was meant to be said. It could have been a million terms I could have said and as an alternate, but that's the one I chose. But I mean, he ended up still buying the book. I don't really let negativity like tear me down. Why do you think
he bought the book?
Because the goal was still there. It was still present. Whether or not he felt like a word was this or that, I created this entire book. And if you want to, get hired, then you'll have to go through certain processes to get hired. But other than that, you still bought the book because it still has meaning. The purpose is still there. So that's why I feel he still bought the book.
I don't think I have anything else. What do you think I should ask you about your book? What do I need to know about that book?
Maybe how we can all expand it. How can we expand this book?
Okay, so hold on, let me ask you.
Okay.
How in the heck can we expand this book?
I say we expand it by working as a unit. Like I said, I did not create this book for myself. I actually created to share amongst many generations to come. And I found out that if I am to have all this information, all this knowledge, and I am to pass away, who am I actually sharing it to the next generation to actually help them develop in their generation? So I can't do that by myself. You know, I can't hold all the knowledge in my head and feel like the next generation is going to be able to get it just by magic or, you know, not saying that they won't, but I'm just saying I cannot assume that by keeping stuff within is going to allow what I'm here to do, which is be fruitful and fruit. And a gentleman who I spoke of earlier, I have to get his name because it stuck with me when he said, you know, when a tree create fruit, that tree does not eat its own fruit.